Hello and welcome to another edition of UL President R on Lux FM 106.5, University of Liberia Radio. We are coming to you live from our Fender campus in the township of Louisiana in Monserrado County, Liberia. My name is Afonso, and of course, the president of the University of Liberia is on the other side of the divide. We'll be talking all about the University of Liberia. Yeah. She's going to be live on this radio through the magic of technology. And so I'm taking a short break. When we come back, the president of the University of Liberia will be live on the line. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us on the program. And of course, this platform is meant to bring the University of Liberia closer to you. Whatever concern you have, whether you are a student or you are, a faculty, a staff, or just whoever you are. I mean, whatever concern you have about the running of the University of Liberia, this is an opportunity for you to engage with the president. So let me say good afternoon from my end, Madam President, and welcome to your program.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Madam President, can you get me? How you doing?
I'm getting you. Can you get me?
Okay, yes. How are you today? How's the weekend?
Good.
Wonderful. So you are out of Liberia, guess missing the University of Liberia.
Of course. I'm always homesick when I leave Liberia.
Well, but this place that you miss so much.
I'll tell you, right now I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, so one of the things I miss is the warm weather. I can tell you that for free. But I also miss the university. I love my job. I'm always happy to be there. And even though I'm working here, working remotely doesn't have the same feeling as working in person. So, I miss everybody. Oh, you're on.
Can you get me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying, I know a few weeks ago you left the country, to go back to the States, to attend to this family, affair. But I guess while you are there, after all the different events, you could be engaging with some other institutions or individuals. You want to talk to us about some activities you are into after the family, activities?
Well, sure. I know that a lot of people know that I just returned from Ethiopia. Just as I was getting ready to leave my family home in Jacksonville, Florida, in the United States, I was called by His Excellency, President Joseph Numa Boakai Sr., to join his delegation for a state visit to Ethiopia. So I immediately took a flight to Ethiopia, spent a few days there, and just returned back to the United States on Friday, this time in Massachusetts, Boston area, instead of Florida. So really, the last week of my life has been focused on Ethiopia.
What are we to expect from a visit to Ethiopia?
Well, it was a real opportunity to witness how the nation of Ethiopia has used technology to its advantage for rapid development. And I think that the whole purpose of this delegation visit, especially for me, was to see what they're doing and think about how we can bring it back to Liberia and specifically to the university. We had the opportunity to visit the Ethiopian Artificial Intelligence Institute, which is one of the leading artificial intelligence operations on the continent of Africa. The current Prime Minister of Ethiopia, His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, has used artificial intelligence to revolutionize many of the institutions in Ethiopia, including government services and including youth employment issues, including agriculture and responses to climate change, all sorts of things. And everything is highly visible. So to walk into an environment where a country was in the middle of a rapid state-led technological revolution was really eye-opening. And it made me think a lot about what we can do here in Liberia and specifically at the University of Liberia.
I mean, you went to Ethiopia and made all of these had all of these engagements. Taking to whether you've already identified some areas in AI that in a not too distant future could be infused into our different programs here.
I did. I gave a lot of thought to it. And I think that there's a few approaches that we really need to consider. The first is we really need to understand AI as a broad-based tool and not just a discipline. UL is developing an AI and cybersecurity master's program in collaboration with UNDP. But we need to understand that program is a gateway, but the reality is AI is rapidly transforming every area of life all around the world. And we can't really limit its use. We have to understand how it's applied in almost every area, and we have to upgrade our systems accordingly. So, for example, at the University of Liberia, one of the things that is already in our strategic plan has to do with digitization, which means all the things that we currently still do on paper need to be transferred to computer systems. But the understanding here shouldn't just be, it's now humans putting it into computers, but we need to have the kind of programs, systems, software, platforms that allow AI to speed up our systems and to do some of the work that currently, we require many, many people to do. We need to speed up our systems by using AI platforms and also to use it to make our systems more efficient. So that was one of the observations. But another example, we spent a lot of time looking at technologically aided agriculture operations. We saw several farms. We saw a hydroponic farm. We saw a few integrated agriculture farms, some that were really focused on export, agricultural tech-aided agriculture for export. We also saw some a cattle farm, poultry farms, et cetera, that were all using technology in some way to really power up what they were doing. And when I reflected on our disciplinary offerings at UL, it occurred to me that we need to add some new programs of study that, beyond just mechanized farming, which means going, from oxen to tractors. We've got to, pull in all these other technology and computer and AI enabled farming technologies. We have to teach our own students and faculty to be a part of what's going on globally. So I could give many more examples. There are examples in healthcare, there are examples in environmental science, there are even examples in, public administration, so many. But to see them all working together harmoniously in Ethiopia, again, was eye-opening.
That we can infuse this, so as to speed up our system. But it has to do with maybe money to get a program already, to be started, and also the intentional nature of it. I know you always want the best for the University of Liberia, and I will assume that given all of what you say, you kind of welcome all of them, to be part of our system. But if I were to ask you as to your plan to get something started in the direction of allowing AI, in your words, to speed our systems. What kind of time you want to attach to this?
Well, I think that, one of the first steps is going to be forming some partnerships with institutions in Ethiopia. One feature of the bilateral agreement between Liberia and Ethiopia that was forged by His Excellency, as well as Sarah Basilo Nyanti, Minister of Foreign Affairs, with their counterparts in Ethiopia, was to enable exchange of ideas and technologies and learning. So, at the university level, now UL and some of those entities in Ethiopia. So technology transfer, knowledge sharing is one of the first steps. It's really important that we set our intentions and set our targets very proactively. It's in a world of cars, you don't want to be saving up money to buy a horse. You want to make sure that you are directing yourself to the appropriate technology for the era in which you are living and working. So we need to really review at the university whether the way we're setting our sights is in line with the best practices. And, when we do that, we will find the various kind of resources we need to make it happen. But we must set our sights accordingly. We can't set our sights according to the money we have. We have to set our sights according to what is the appropriate technology for our age.
On. Madam President, sorry you went off. Can you get me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Sorry, you were in flight when we had our technical fault. Please go on.
Okay, I'm not sure where it ended, but
yeah. So I will ask you, what are you, into some other discussions, in the U.S. after the Ethiopia trip? Discussion relating to the University of Liberia.
Yes, the plans I have in the United States, my Liberian Studies Association conference, annual conference that they have, and I'm the keynote speaker. And in that event, I'll be talking about possible futures for the University of Liberia and how we consider which road to take. And then after that, I'll be spending some time with trustees of donations for education in Liberia at their annual May meeting. They are generous grantors to the University of Liberia, and they also manage UL's endowment. So every time I come to the Boston area, I like to engage them. I have plans to meet with a few other people, but because those meetings haven't been set, I don't want to announce them yet. But some are technology related.
There could be some kind of misunderstanding in the public as to how, money that is managed by TDL is handled. What do you know the source of that money and how TDL manages it? Before, I think the information is that every year they give us certain amount of money, us meaning the university, to do some work. Yeah. So what do you know about the source of the money?
Okay, there are two sources of money. One is a grant from the Trustees of Donations of Education in Liberia, which comes from an endowment that they own and manage since the 1800s. Money that was donated to the University of Liberia when they started in the 1800s. Over time, that money has grown, and that money puts out a certain amount of endowment distribution, which they grant to the University of Liberia, primarily for the purpose of the UL libraries and to some extent things related to the humanities at UL. The other amount of money that they give us comes from the University of Liberia endowment that was established by Ambassador Al-Hassan Kante when he was president of the university in the early 2000s. That was an amount of money that came as a result of the Greystone exchange between the University of Liberia and the U.S. Embassy. That money was put into an endowment that is managed by the Trustees of Donations for Education in Liberia as a separate endowment account owned by the University of Liberia. That money has been invested in treasury bonds. Treasury bonds are a relatively stable but low yielding investment instrument, which is why the fund has had a very modest growth over the years, but they're very stable. They're something that are predictable. They're not a volatile instrument. They're considered a very safe investment instrument.
Made to the University of Liberia in the 1800s. In your words, that money has grown, and it is managed by TDL. So, can I then conclude that they do report, breakdown as to how that money is managed and spent, besides the one that comes to the UL for the other upgrading of our libraries or whatever it is? Do they do some report to us, for example?
They've given reports to me every time I've visited with them. So yes, they do reporting. In the United States, because of the nature of the type of organization they are, they have to do annual reporting to the Internal Revenue Service, which manages taxes and that kind of thing in the United States. So they produce an annual form called a 990, which is what not charitable organizations have to produce for the IRS every year. So they've and those are publicly available online. Anyone who wants to do a Google search can find them. So it shows the funds that they have and, gives some limited detail about how it's spent. But in terms of it coming to us, it's presented to the UL president for use by the discretion of the UL president. The only slight restriction is the restriction of that portion of funds that has to be used for the library and humanities ventures. The part that is from the UL endowment is completely at the discretion of the UL president. They asked for a breakdown of how the president will use it, and then they asked for a report stating back how it was used, before the year is over. When I meet with them, I report. The last year's meetings were focused on what I had in mind to do and how much money they were going to give. And then when they gave the money in December, since then, it's about implementing the things that I said I would implement with the funds.
Say that whatever money we want from trustee of donations, to come from either our endowment fund or our, donation fund, it is, that money is requested by the University of Liberia, or they determine how much to send.
TDL determines how much to send using an endowment distribution formula. Most endowments give between 3 and 5% of the endowment value annually, and that's just a very customary distribution formula. And so they give that money. We don't decide how much it is. They're, as managers, they decide how much it is. We decide how to spend it. They send it every year, usually by the end of December, because they have their annual meeting in December when they decide how much it will be, and then they send it before the end of December so that their tax year shows that they've done their duty.
going too much deep into this, but I mean, somebody listening to us will want to know, for example, I mean, you've been president 1 year now, a little over a year. So I think we talk about the amount, but just for the sake of our audience, how much did we request for last year? And what are we looking up to this year?
We don't request the amount. They tell us how much the amount will be. We don't request. They just by law send it to us. So all we do is just make sure that it comes and respond to them with the ideas we have for how it will be spent. So this year it was, I want to say it was 222,000 or something of that nature, of which about 69,000 roughly was the library portion. So that's roughly, I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but it's somewhere in the low to mid 200,000s total, and between probably 65 and 70,000 on strictly the library portion.
So we are equally, maybe, I mean, expect anyway, not the same amount, but something good this year again.
Yes, by December. Similar amount. Somewhat on the behavior of the market. All endowments are based on interest. They grow by the interest rates. So when the interest rates go up and down due to the fluctuations in the market, the distribution can also go up and down. So if the market is a bull market going up, then we get more money. If it's a bear market going down, then we get less money. We won't know until we get to that point what's available.
That have been there since it has been there since the 1800s. You know, they've been managing that one. But what I want to know, do we have a right to know how much in our endowment fund, for example?
Yes, they do tell us. It's around $3 million. It's not a lot.
All right, we're talking more and more every time we meet.
I have all the facts. Nothing's being hidden from us. It's, you know.
Sorry, the line went. Hello.
Hi.
Madam President, line is bad. Hello.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Okay, a little better now. I mean, I really didn't get. Firstly, the group that you are to serve as guest speaker for, and then what the occasion is about, and then you were just trying to make, you know, or see something when the line went terrible.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that all of the information about TDEL is publicly available. And if anybody wants more information about it, I can let the community know. I mean, there's nothing secret about TDEL. And then with regard to the event that I'm going to the annual conference of the Association for Liberian Studies, which is an academic organization in the United States for people, scholars, academics, professors who study Liberia. They come and present papers about their research. So they invited me last year to come this year's conference as keynote speaker. So I'm coming and I'll be speaking about the future of the University of Liberia and how we decide among possible futures.
I mean, some of our people, our faculty who are studying abroad, I mean, or say abroad, part of the event.
I will assume so. It's my first time attending, so I don't know about the membership. I'll see once I get there. But I do know that there are some Liberians in Liberia who have been accepted to the conference, so I'll see if they're there.
Now let's come back home here at the University of Liberia. The first thing here, the Faculty Association had its elections over the weekend. Where do you, how do you feel about this? I guess you are on top of that as well.
Yes, I did receive the results, and I want to congratulate the new team, President of Alpha Dukli, as well as all of the other members of the new leadership delegation. I look forward to meeting with them after I return.
Your return, what would you want to see happen under the leadership of President Dukli?
Well, I certainly want to see continued peace and calm on campus and a continuation of our new regularized academic calendar so that students can continue to make, healthy academic progress across the course of the year and reach their graduation pinnacle on shorter and shorter timelines. I also look forward to staying abreast of faculty concerns and working with faculty on the issues that are most important to them. So I guess that being said, I look forward to dialogue, collaboration, and shared improvement of the University of Liberia.
So one of the things, although you talk about that, I had an engagement with them sometime back. In fact, the last president talked about that. They, up Capitol Hill, they have this faculty lounge. They also want to have, similar structure here on Fender campus. That arrangement, according to them, has been in, but your administration is looking in the direction, correct me if I'm wrong, of setting up such structure rather than the faculty association.
Yes, I was aware since the time I arrived that the Faculty Association had its aspirations on a new building on Fendel campus. And since there are so many faculty at Fendel campus without a dedicated faculty center, that seemed like a reasonable proposal to me. I know that they had an initial design for such a building. However, because of the processes related to taking a second look at the Fendel land use plan and, working towards the university's city development, that we have to make sure that we put that building into that plan and get all the necessary clearances. We just submitted a plan to the Ministry of Finance for how we will use the renovation and modernization funds that they allocated for this year. And because we did not have all of the plans for the Alpha building, it's not in this year's plan. However, what I would like to see us do this year is to go through those processes of land approval, because land use has to be approved by the Board of Trustees. So when we build a new building, we have to get approval from the Board of Trustees. And so I think we need to go through those formal levels of getting the land assigned within the confines of the land use plan. That would involve a conversation with myself and Vice President Weadi Kobaboli, who is the new University City Development Vice President. And then after that is determined in the context of the updated land use plan, that we bring the proposal to the UL Board of Trustees, who by statute has to approve land uses at UL. So I would encourage Alpha to make that one of the highest priority conversation topics in our first meeting, so that we can use this year effectively to queue everything up for the FY27 budget, so that their building gets completed within that year. Based on what I've seen so far, it is the kind of building that could be concluded within the space of the year. And the sooner we get it started, the better. This year needs to focus on land selection, land approval, and getting a plan, an architectural plan that matches the land that is given to them, because the details of that plan will determine the BOQs that we have to use to get approval from the Ministry of Finance, from the procurement, the PPCC, and all of those. I mean, it's just quite an involved process. But now that we know what the steps are, I want to get Alpha on that pathway as soon as possible. In terms of who will pay for it, if our funding for infrastructure and modernization continues into next year, similar to what we had this year, we will easily be able to pay for it. But if they, want to use a portion of their funds towards that, of course, we welcome it. It should be a joint venture. They should have skin in the game. But, I look forward to there being a modern faculty center on Fendel campus. It is needed.
Wonderful. 0777-277-288, 0777-277-288. In case you are monitoring and you want to be a part of our discussion, the president of the University of Liberia, Dr. Lily Maparyan, is live on the line. You could just go ahead and call that number, raise whatever concern you have. She will respond to you. Call us on 0777-277-288 and be a part of our discussion. Do you have any information about the ongoing entrance registration? Anytime allotted, for Innovate? Do you know?
I haven't had an update about it before I left, so I don't have an update about it right now. I assume it's going on as scheduled, but I haven't had an update since I left the country.
Our graduate, program. In fact, I mean, you were just talking about renovation. I think buildings in that arrangement is the graduate school building. The next one is the AB. I don't know since you already, have the document, or say you prepared the document and submitted to finance ministry, whether there were additional structures, added to those two major ones. That's one. I mean, then we can go into our different program and assess progress there so far. But let's, talk about whether we added additional structures for renovation.
Yes, we did. The AP building is the centerpiece. It's the biggest, most expansive project within the portfolio. But we did also add in some renovation for the engineering building and the science building. The law school I had already mentioned is part of it. There are some things in the graduate school, but it's not a complete overhaul yet. There are some other things. I don't have the BOQ in front of me, because we have a UL technical team that worked together to determine, given the amount of money that we had been allocated, how it could best be spent to renovate multiple structures. And they came up with the plan right before I left, which I have read, but I don't have it memorized. So they were able, after their assessments, to add some additional structures to it. And of course, we're also completing the solar oasis. Unfortunately, the geopolitical situation in the Middle East affected the shipping routes from China. So it's taking a little bit longer for the solar products to get here. But I believe by sometime July, August, the project should finish.
I want to share with the public, on the local side of construction, what level are we now?
With which thing?
I mean, the oasis.
Oh, yeah.
What are the structures are already built and zinc and everything, just waiting for the solar, Yeah.
Yes, the buildings are built. People who have looked at them lately will see the scaffolding on the roofs of those buildings that is prepared to hold the solar panels and the roofing and all of those things. So really, we're just waiting for the polar panels and the batteries, most importantly, the batteries and the inverters to come. And the thing is that once those things come, we can do the interior finishing, like the painting and the furnishing and all of that will really make it usable space.
But I mean, ahead of this, I mean, it's clear that anytime soon, maybe the next 3-4 months, maybe I'm saying maybe. I mean, it will be ready for turnover. But ahead of that, what are you hearing from your students regarding that? Are they excited about what they're seeing so far? What are you hearing from other people who may perhaps benefit from it?
Well, I think students are excited about it. I had one student say, that this was the first example of new construction they had seen in their entire time at UL. So that was a heartening comment to hear from that student. And I know students are excited to have more bathrooms online. I think, though, that people are still asking questions about how we're going to improve the bathrooms in other buildings. We're continuing to work on that. It's slow going. When I come back, it's going to be one of my top priorities to personally visit some of these facilities and see what's going on, and to stay on top of personally the bathroom renovations in other buildings. But I think people are excited about the solar oasis, not only because it's new bathrooms, but also because it's a solar project. I've been talking up solarizing UL's campuses. People are starting to get excited about that. We're starting to get interest from people about solarizing our campuses, and it's going to give us so much energy independence. I mean, when I was in Ethiopia talking with our colleagues and peers about upgrading the digital infrastructure at UL, they asked us about power and energy. And the minute I said we had intermittent electricity, they just started looking down at the floor, because there's not a lot you can do if you don't have your energy situation together. They're big on their energy there. They use a lot of hydro in Ethiopia. They're starting to use more solar. But for us, I think solar is going to be the answer. So the faster we get to that, the better.
So what kind of step we're taking to get there faster? We already started, maybe you say jogging, or we run it already?
No, I mean, yeah, I would say one thing that's going to really help is when we get the strategic plan fully approved by the Board of Trustees. That's really a prerequisite to moving forward on some of these major, because it's solarization is a major infrastructure project. We have to put it in our procurement plan. We have a lot of companies lined up who want to do it. I mean, there's no lack of interest in providers who want to be part of the solution. I have no doubt. And I've really been viewing the Solar Oasis as our pilot project for the use of industrial solar energy on a university campus. And so when people see that, they're going to get it, like why we really need to solarize all of our campuses. So it's underway, but bureaucracy makes things move slower than the mind. You imagine things would get done quickly, and then the bureaucracy says, "Hold your horses." So that's where we are.
To solarize our campuses is a wonderful thing. I mean, people listening and monitoring, will really, really, really be happy to see that coming on. But I just want to know whether it is part of our budget, though it's part of our strategic plan, whether we've captured it on our budget. If not, where do we hope to get the money from anytime soon?
Well, right now, finishing the Solar Oasis is what's in the budget. When we do our annual budgeting for the government, there's a section in there about climate projects. And so when we filled that out for fiscal year 2026, completing the Solar Oasis was our climate project. So next year, I expect the solarization more fully will be our climate project. And we're going to go as far as we can with that this year. If we have the opportunity to start it sooner, we will. That might require some special negotiations with the PPCC and some revision of our procurement plan. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to require a lot of approvals to move forward. I'm less worried about the funding. I'm more worried about, just queuing it up and well, I can't say I'm not worried about the funding. Yes, we need to get funding. It's going to need to be both government and non-government sources. But we're also going to use this year to talk up those agencies that, tend to participate in big climate projects like this.
Good one. So, let's go back to reviewing our, graduate programs. Let's start with the doctoral program first that was launched last year. What's the progress in there now?
I think you're talking, well, we launched a couple of graduate programs last year. We launched the public health program, and we launched the gender and security studies program. Both of them have students. Both of them are operating. The education one hasn't launched yet. It's been designed, but it hasn't been launched in terms of people being in the program yet. I think that will be the next one. But we've also, been approving some other programs. There are new graduate programs in international relations. I believe environmental science has also been approved, but I'll go back and check. But we're going to see a growth in graduate programs. But as they grow, we have to be very mindful of how we pay for them, because they can be very expensive. And our personnel budget is level from last year. So we don't have funding right now to grow expansively. We have to be very economical about how we launch them. But even with those constraints, we've managed to get the first two off the ground, with more to come probably by, I would say, the semester starting in August.
Going to the master program, so the graduate program, any of the graduate programs has to do entrance. What qualifies one to do any of the doctoral program, that is in place?
Well, the thing people need to understand about entrance is that there are different capacities needed for undergraduate study, master's level study, and doctoral study. So people need to be reassessed at every level to make sure that they are aligned with the demands of those particular programs, which is why we have different entrance tests for different levels. I know a lot of people talk about why they can't just go straight from an undergraduate level of performance straight into grad school without a test, but it's simply because they require different things.
All right. So in short, anybody wanting to go to any of the doctoral program, you have to do entrance as well.
Yeah, entrance or whatever the other requirements are. Sometimes the interviews, sometimes various kinds of tests. Maybe an entrance test, it may be some kind of professional test. But yeah, whatever's required, people have to do the things. It's true all around the world.
777-288-0777, 277-288, 277-288. Call call that number and be a part of our discussion here. The president of the University of Liberia, Professor Dr. Lady Maparyan, is live on the line talking all about the University of Liberia. Any challenge these programs that you want to talk about? What are the challenges there?
Well, I think the biggest challenges are making sure that the programs we have are up to date in terms of best practices and best academic bodies of knowledge at a global level. So in other words, that they meet global standards. And second, that they all contribute meaningfully and with immediacy to national development. For example, I've been thinking a lot about the proposal for a PhD in agriculture at the university since coming from Ethiopia. And I need to go take a closer look and see whether we're including some of those disciplines that are more cutting edge and would contribute to national development, more quickly. One example would be in Ethiopia, we visited a hydroponic farming center. They were growing a particular herb that for the international market. And, I said, oh, I wonder if we're teaching any hydroponics at UL, in agriculture. I don't recall that we are. I mean, I should go double check, but I don't recall that we're teaching hydroponics. If we're not, we need to, because that's an important way of growing things. It's another way of speeding up, the process of growing crops for sale. And it's also in terms of resource use, it, is more economical. So we should be teaching that. If we're not, then we need to figure out how we can. That's an example of like making sure that any new master's or doctoral programs that we have are training students at a world-class level and making sure that we're learning the things that accelerate national development.
I want to go to the farmers market.
Yeah. Great farmers markets there. I want UL to have a great farmers market. Do.
All right. So let's talk about a few weeks ago when you appeared on this program, there were some concerns, coming in from public health students about limited number of sections, and you promised that you would have made some checkup in there to know what's going on. Do you have any information to share with the students?
I don't have any new information, but I also haven't heard anything negative while I've been away. So I'm assuming that those concerns have been addressed in my absence.
Let me ask you this. Though you went to, attend Family Matter, you're still the president of the university and there could be issues coming up. What is that major thing that has reached you since you left? And you want to talk about it?
Yeah, a few things have reached me. A few things have reached me while I've been away. I think some of the graduating students have reached out to me about their projects that they want to complete post-graduation. I know, for example, the 105th graduating class wants to complete a basketball court project at the Sinjay campus. So they've been in conversation with me and other, actors about getting that funding for that. That's been an issue that has reached me. There were some issues about, there was a group of students that was concerned about the medical entrance. There were some that worried that there were some new requirements. And I did talk with the VPAA about that, but I haven't fully resolved, that. Those are the two that really stand out in my mind. I'm aware that there have been some other things going on, some students participating in national protests off our campus and, things of that nature. I know that our campus queen is soon going into her competition. So there's been, making sure we're supporting her fully, et cetera.
How did you feel when you heard that some of your students were into national protests in your word?
Well, I wasn't surprised. Been doing that ever since I've been here and long before. I always encourage them, whatever you're doing, stay peaceful. Don't do anything on campus that violates our rules. Don't do anything you shouldn't do off campus. I give them my mandate for how I think they should approach the situation, but I don't go deeply into their what they're saying or, et cetera. It's their right to exercise their political thought, their free speech, as long as they do it in a way that follows the law.
So when you were last on this program, you declared that you want to see, student elections take place. You want to see the ban lifted on politics, student politics here. You were working with, or you are working with the board of trustees to make sure that ban, is lifted. You want to get an update as to where we are now?
Well, the main thing that's happened in that regard is that I've had conversations with the new vice president for student affairs, Seda Williamson Taylor, about how together we can develop a roadmap towards lifting the ban. She agrees that there needs to be a lot of change in terms of the approach of the students to how they express themselves politically. We also, she wanted us to ensure that we have the new student handbook fully approved and fully publicized before we lift the ban, because it's going to be key to holding students accountable for their political behavior.
So let's talk about, so let me ask you, before the graduation, there was this article, arrangement in place, students received theirs and left. There's the guys who are in school this semester, can they be assured that they're going to receive articles as well?
Yes, that's one of the highest priorities of the new vice president for student affairs and dean of students. And we've been discussing, we were going back and forth about a few different methodologies for producing IDs, and we settled on one. Basically, we're going to extend the same type of ID that we had for the duration of this semester, but by next year, we're going to have a different type of ID with more security features. But for this year, we're just going to continue the type of IDs that we made for the graduating seniors. And we're in the process of procuring the supplies.
Who's producing our ID cards? Ourselves, or we have a company that doing it for us?
We do it ourselves now. We have employees whose job it is to make IDs, and they make them.
Production of ID card, costing the university in terms of cash and cents?
I think that the bill for getting this year's supplies is something like $48,000. They're pretty expensive.
Or some other fees?
I'm sorry, I couldn't do the first part of it.
I'm asking as to whether we're going to get our money, whether from our budget or some other fees.
Well, an amount of money for IDs is embedded in the fees that we collect from students. However, the amount of money that we collect from students is not enough to cover the real cost of IDs in this economy. So we have to supplement it from other funds that we have. But by the time we do it next year, the cost of the fees is going to have to go up to accommodate the real cost of IDs. I mean, there's going to be a new situation. We're going to have to adjust fees to reflect the real cost of the services that they cover.
Discussions yet with student leaders to see reason maybe, to have that conversation now?
We had that conversation around budget to some extent. So the idea that fees must be adjusted periodically has already been dropped. But I do believe that we need to have much deeper discussions, not just with the President's Student Advisory Council, but with other groups of students as well. I mean, this is one of the reasons that I really want the ban lifted, because students self-organize into political groups, and it's much easier to communicate with the student body when I don't have to be wrestling with a ban in order to communicate with them. However, I feel that this is something that we're going to have to pull in students, faculty, staff, and the wider community, because people have an expectation that education at UL is going to be free and that everything is going to be low cost. And that is just not economically feasible. So we have to come up with some kind of rational and mutually agreed upon roadmap for making the fees match the cost of the things that they have to pay for. So, there's no chance that it's going to go up as high as we would like it anytime soon, but it does need to go higher than what it is now. If you really think about it, what can $15 buy? $15 can't buy all the things that people think they're paying for within the student fees. That's, roughly for undergraduates, they pay $15 in fees per semester. We take a comparable school like University of Ghana, they pay $200 a semester in fees. So, I mean, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing? What's your name and where you call from?
My name is Jeffrey Bishop Jr. I call from Campus.
Welcome, Jeffrey.
Yes, Like I study cybersecurity, but and I'm not a student, but we got still a lab on campus. I want to speak on it.
You're studying cybersecurity, but no lab, according to you.
Yeah, but we got lab. Each one going lab, no current, even no lab. Yeah, we got a computer.
No lab at all.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, so the president speak on it, please.
Yeah, just listen. She'll speak to her. All right. 077-277-288, 077-277-288. Madam President, did you get his concern?
I thought I heard about the absence of a lab and how that was hampering the study of cybersecurity. Is that correct? Could you repeat that?
Hello? Yes. Jeffrey is studying cybersecurity, but according to him, no lab. They haven't been to the lab because it's not available. That's according to him.
Okay. We recently got a gift from His Excellency President Joseph Numa Boakai Sr. To a gift of $50,000 towards the provision of a modern research laboratory for the graduate school. So we are going to be using that to provide an upgraded lab. We haven't decided yet which campus it will be on and exactly what it will contain. I want to have another conversation with the leadership of the 105th graduate school because they were the ones who initially made a proposal to the president for an upgraded research lab at UL. But we certainly will get that started. Now, the thing about labs is once you create one, that's good. Everybody wants to go there. But everybody can't go to every lab because if they do, the people who need to use it for their discipline won't have access to it. And a lot of times specialized labs need specialized software and specialized equipment. So something like cybersecurity and AI is going to require very specialized kind of computer equipment. I'm hoping that the lab that we build from the money that the president gave will enable us to do some of those kinds of things. We have a newly refreshed lab in the math department for undergraduates for the use of the math department. We have some other labs that have been rehabilitated. I mean, I don't know if the caller knows that we had some 70 plus computers sitting around for 3 years in boxes unused. Why did this happen at UL? I have no idea. But I'm thankful to Dr. Melvin Colley, the new chair of the math department, who took all of those computers out of boxes, took it upon himself to get that lab up and running, including some things at personal expense. And, now we have a nice big lab for that department. So I expect to see growth in other areas, but I'm definitely going to use the gift from the president to do something high tech, especially given the interest that he expressed in AI and high tech when we visited Ethiopia.
Hi, Madam President. So I thought to ask you every time you appear on this program. So I will take you back to the president's board. What other update do we have from the different pledges made?
Well, our consultant, Honorable Cynthia Blanford, has collected the pledges. She's holding them until I come back. We're going to put them in a new dedicated bank account for gifts and development that we have established. And we've already started using the gifts because I've already given out most of the scholarships for undergraduates that were gifted at each event. So we also have a very small number of graduate scholarships for graduate students who are completing their final semester. At least one of those has already been given out. But we have other things that we're going to do there. For example, one of the gifts was for fixing up staff bathroom. Another was for buying some volumes for the law library. It was getting a KK for the use of the students with disabilities on Fendel campus. So, this trip has really interrupted some of the things that I had in motion. When I come back, pick up where I left off and, move those things along.
So I think we are now call it a day. So anything final you want to say, Madam President, before we leave you?
Well, as always, it's a pleasure to be on the show and have an opportunity to engage you and engage with the community. I really am homesick for Liberia and UL, so I look forward to coming back at the end of the first week of May. Hopefully I'll have some new ideas based on my travels and maybe some, positive news to share. So I just encourage everybody to hold on and keep on keeping on until I come back. Don't be a fool, stay in school.
Until she comes back. That's what she's saying. So, Madam President, thank you so much and all the best. Right. The president of the University of Liberia, Professor Lady Maparyan there on the line, usually at this time on Your President. We're back here next Monday, hopefully. Until that time, my name is Afonso. Thank you for your listening, and thank you for viewing wherever you are.